What's up, pod pals? It's your buddy Adam from Podcasting Business School, the show where I teach podcasters how to love their podcast like a hobby and build it like a business. Today, we've got a very special podcast audit episode with my pod pal, Nick, from Heartbreak to Wholeness podcast. Nick, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Adam. I'm grateful to be here.
All right. So I want to dig in and set a goal right from the get-go here. Let's say you and I are sitting down 6 months from today. You've experienced some great growth with your brand and with your show. Could you describe what that might look like over the next 6 months?
Yeah, sure. So I would say over the next 6 months, really honestly, like getting leads for my business from my podcast. So maybe, like maybe 10 leads a month.
Okay. I like the way that you're thinking here, Nick. So let's dig in with this. What do you feel like is preventing you from achieving that right now? Is it an audience size thing? Is it, I don't have lead magnets going? What do you feel like is the roadblock in the way here?
Yeah, right now it's probably audience size. So I started my podcast the beginning of this year.
Okay.
So right now I have about 400 or so downloads.
Okay.
So could definitely increase that. And then yeah, I feel like I'm putting good content out there. But again, just starting to get some leads from that.
Okay. All right. So with your show, who is the ideal listener that is also the ideal client? How would you describe that person?
Yeah, so she's a woman that has been struggling after a breakup or even a divorce. It could be a couple of months, maybe even a few years. And she's tried a lot of the traditional methods to heal her pain, but she feels stuck. So she's listening to my podcast to get some heart centered tools and holistic tips to help her to start to heal and move forward.
Okay. You're kicking around some terms here that I'm loving, by the way. They're really setting off the keyword alarms for me. Now, the first thing I always look at is easy, low-hanging fruit, search engine optimization stuff that we could set once and it works for us over and over and over. So our ideal listeners are able to find us easily. So with the name of your show, From Heartbreak to Wholeness, is that the entire name or is there anything else added to that? Or is that's what's in the title line?
Yeah, that's it so far.
Okay. So what I would recommend is a possible title extension. I don't think you need to change. Like I like from Heartbreak to Wholeness, but some of the words that you just used to describe your ideal listener are excellent keywords that, because right now, maybe people might be searching the word heartbreak, maybe not. But I think the word relationships, yes. Divorce, yes. Like things like that are words that people are searching. Like if somebody is going through a divorce and they're looking for a podcast on relationships and divorce, like they're going to put the word divorce in a podcast search engine on Apple or Spotify. And if your show has that word in the title, it's going to pull up. There's a very high chance that your show pulls up. And so maybe we add a title extension like From Heartbreak to Wholeness, conversations or advice for females going through relationship struggles and divorce. Or if we can get the word relationship or relationships and the word divorce in there in the title extension, those are two really, really strong search words. So is that making sense so far, Nick?
It is. Yeah. What do you think about the word breakup? Do you think that people would
Yes.
be searching for that as well as divorce?
Yes. So maybe it could be main title and then relationship advice for females going through a breakup or a divorce or something like that. Like that's a lot of words. I mean, maybe we can simplify it down a little bit. But honestly, I've got a really long extension to my show and it works. It's like Podcasting Business School, tips, entrepreneurship tips for online coaches, consultants, and service providers. Like, it's really long, but all
Yeah.
those are keywords. And when you talk about your show, you always just refer to it as From Heartbreak to Wholeness. Like, you don't say the whole thing every time you introduce the show, or like
Hmm.
any of that. This is just the extension for SEO purposes only. So something to think about. But yeah, relationships, breakup, divorce. If you could sneak all three of those words in there somewhere, holy moly, this is going to be very effective. So those are three very strong search terms. And immediately now you've got organic growth happening every time people are searching those terms. So I would look at that. Also, like in your episode titles, look at using those words. If those words are applicable, put them in the title of an episode, because that will help with your search as well. And then in your host description as well, wherever you host the show, having those terms in there are really going to help quite a bit as well. Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah. Awesome. Thanks.
Okay. So once we got that, just organic, easy, not easy, but simple stuff, the little tweaks that we've made there, that's going to help quite a bit. And then we got to look at other kind of show growth engines, where we're going to look at leveraging other people's podcasts, potential paid ad opportunities, but just having like a basic marketing plan in place will help quite a bit. So when a new episode goes out for your show, Nick, how are you telling people about that? How are you marketing that new piece of content?
Yeah. So right now I'm sending it out in my newsletter. So I do an email newsletter twice a month. And then I'm not super huge into social media, but I just started putting like an audio version of my podcasts on YouTube.
Okay. Nice. Okay. So definitely mixing in some email marketing. That's going to be a big bonus. If you do any social media stuff, video content, like just like clips of your show, will do pretty well. So yeah, I'm a big fan of trying to build up to having 5 marketing assets that go live to promote an episode within 72-hour window, which that can be intense for somebody that's not really super into the social media. I totally get that. Like,
Yeah.
whoa. But for me, it's like we build this audience and people that follow us on our email list or on social media. The new episodes are for them. And I want to keep putting content out that keeps them engaged, keeps them wanting to listen to more. And then, when I'm running a paid ad on a podcast player app or something like that, that's to acquire new people. If I'm guessing on someone else's podcast, that's to bring new people into my world.
Hmm.
So we kind of have to think about advertising and marketing in both of those lanes of how are we keeping the people that are subscribing, listening, and how do we get also new listeners that listen to the show?
Yeah.
So um, it's maybe worth with your email marketing strategy. Maybe like what I do is I do 2 email blasts per week, and maybe one of them is just a quick thought, and the other one's more of an unpacked, like full newsletter that has other topics on it as well. But multiple opportunities to market to your email list. That's going to be a good thing. But if there is a social media platform that you feel more comfortable with than others, whether that's Instagram or Facebook or TikTok or whatever, trying to get some assets out there where you're doing like a video clip. If you're already putting it on YouTube, just chopping that up and getting a couple of video clips and putting those out there. And there's so many like AI platforms that you could just toss your video into. Like I use one, it's called VIDYO. So video, but spelled
Mm.
VIDYO.ai. You can throw, an hour long podcast video clip in there, and it will break it up into assets that fit on Instagram Reels, TikTok videos, different shapes, LinkedIn, and they 60-second clips, 30-second clips, whatever you want. And you've got you got dozens of them at the tip of your fingers within seconds, so that's pretty cool.
Mm.
So something to think about.
Yeah.
So any thoughts on that? Does it make you nervous with the 5 assets in 72 hours?
No, it doesn't make me nervous. It just it makes me like brainstorm, like what could I do? The other thing I forgot to mention too is I'm starting to get on other people's podcasts. to be a guest, to talk about the work that I do. So,
Okay. And that's excellent. Like that's a great way to grow your show. Scooping up their audience a little bit. So with that, let's go back to lead generation. What are you
mhm.
using for a lead magnet right now? What kind of lead magnets? So, and I'm thinking more along the lines of like, what's that superstar lead magnet thing that you go on someone else's show? You mentioned your podcast because we want them to subscribe to that, but maybe we also mention a
Mhm.
lead magnet so we can get them on your email list as well. So, what do we have in the lead magnet department, Nick?
Yeah, so the lead magnet that I have, it's a heart-centered breakup toolkit. So it's a few simple heart-centered techniques that someone can use. For example, if they're struggling to kind of get their ex out of their head. Also, simple techniques to help them to start to increase their self-esteem or their self-love, because usually after a breakup or a divorce, especially if you're the one that's been broken up with, your self-esteem and your self-love kind of start to diminish. So, some simple tools to start to boost that up.
Nice.
So yeah, so that's the lead magnet that I currently have.
Okay, so I love that. I love toolkits, workbooks, toolkits, checklists. All those tend to do well as simple lead magnets we can promote when we're on other people's podcasts. So I would set like when somebody's interviewing you and they open
Hmm.
that up and go, "Hey, and now here's your minute to promote whatever you want." Definitely mention, come and find me on the show wherever you listen to audio. But also, I've got this special lead magnet. Actually, we don't call it a lead magnet, but my blah 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 toolkit, and then
Hmm.
just really be specific with that, and you can put a lot of people on your list and get people in your world. So I think that's going to be a smart call to action strategy for you with that specifically. Another thing that I'm really big on that I think
Hmm.
could be interesting and different in your space, because I don't think anybody's done this that I know of, but I'm a big fan of scorecards. All right. I'm a big fan
Mm.
of gamification. So my number one lead magnet is my podcast growth scorecard. And so I gamified podcast marketing, which is kind of a confusing and frustrating zone of being a podcaster. People are like, where do I post things and what type of things are of
Mhm.
value? So I've kind of gamified it and quantified it. So I love thinking about individual brands and going, is there a scorecard in here somewhere in a unique space? And I've helped a couple clients develop them in the recovery space. So I'm like, why can't we do this in the breakup
Mm.
space where maybe you have a
Mhm.
28-day scorecard and there are certain activities that people trying to get over a breakup and get their ex out of their head, they need to be doing certain things. And you have a
Mhm.
scorecard for each day of the 28 days, and they can score points by doing specific things like journaling, talking to a friend, exercising, anything that you think is going to help them,
Mhm.
like, all the things that work, and you gamify it and go, all right, your goal is to score X amount of points by the end of the 28 days. And if you, or maybe you almost have zones like if, and obviously you have to do some testing and kind of lean into your expertise on how, what the numbers need to be. But maybe like if you're in this
Right, yeah.
zone, then, kind of almost set a goal. Like I want you in this zone by the end of the month. And I think if you fall in that, you're really going to be further along. This is how we fast forward through this breakup and being in your head. Or like I always tell podcasters, like I want you scoring over 40 points a week on my scorecard at a minimum, and
Mhm.
that's going to really help your show grow faster. So kind of having that
Mm.
minimum goal, like I need you to score X amount of points per week or per month or at the end of the 28-day challenge or whatever. That's going to make sure you're doing the right things and you're allowing yourself to heal. So
Mhm.
something to think about, because that's unique. If you go on someone else's show, people are used to checklists and toolkits and all the things. And
Right,
I'm a fan of
yeah.
all those things. But if you go, take my 28-day, get your ex out of your head scorecard challenge. I've gamified getting your ex out of your head. I need you to score a certain amount of points. I've got different things that I want you to do. We're going to set a goal together on how I want you to score so that you can finally hit the fast forward button and get over that X and move forward with you. Like that's kind of spicy. It's kind of unique. And
Mhm.
like people like gamification, and especially with
Yeah.
like emotional stuff, like a breakup and getting out of your head, like that's very emotional. If we can cut through that into, I just need to be doing X, Y, and Z, or, scoring points in these 10 categories and hit this goal. And my coach, Nick, says, if I hit this number, I'm going to be, doing much better than I am today. There'll be a tangible difference. Anyway, so I'll put a pin in that. I'll pump my brakes. Any thoughts on this before we dive any deeper on the scorecard situation?
Uh, no, I mean, I really like the scorecard idea. I agree with you. I think that's really, really unique. And yeah, I mean, a lot of people are used to, um, like PDFs and checklists and things like that. So yeah, again, I think the scorecard would be something really, really of value and really unique.
Outstanding. I'm glad that we are in agreement on that. And it can be super simple. Like my podcast growth scorecard is a spreadsheet, and I just did the formulas, and
Mm,
there's a tab for each week. So it's Monday through Sunday. On the left-hand side, I have all the different action step items and then the point value. And you just weight the point value. If it's like, so I'll just use mine as an example. If you put a static image post on social media, that's worth 1 point. If you guest on someone else's podcast, that's worth 5 points, because that's more value. Like you get more out of that.
mhm.
If you run a paid ad, you get 3 points per day for running a paid ad. So, if you think walking is something, going for a 10-minute walk to clear your head, is that the same amount of points as um, journaling for 10 minutes, or meditation, or, talking to a friend about your ex or whatever, or
Mhm.
even, you could score points for not talking to your ex. Like, you didn't talk to your ex today. Congrats, 10 points. Like, there, or
Right.
whatever you think. Um,
Yeah.
so that is, or even just like little, you could do so many cool things. I didn't complain today, points,
Mm,
or
mhm.
whatever. This is, you've really got my brain juices flowing on this one. Like, I think this could be really neat and unique. And I definitely think you could stand out, especially with the way that you brand it and name it. And that's
Mhm.
kind of up to you. But if I've got a relationship based podcast and you come on and do your thing, and then you're like, I've got a 28-day get your ex out of your head scorecard challenge. Oh, that's hitting people across the head, like, oh, wow.
Right, yeah.
And it's just simple. And you do a little email funnel. So you're building your email list. You can funnel them into wherever you want them to go, a discovery call, to meet up with you for your coaching and things like that.
Mhm.
I mean, this is exactly what I've done. I go on other people's shows. I talk
Yeah.
about my scorecard. They upload the scorecard. I've got an 18 email funnel that peels off of that. I'm promoting, like, let's do a discovery call. I've got different services that I can promote off those emails. But I also link a lot of previous podcast episodes in that email chain, where I'm like, all right, they just downloaded my scorecard. I know they're into download growth. So I'm going to promote a lot of my episodes that these people are probably into, that talk about download growth as well. Cause I want to be on their
Mm,
keyboard.
mhm.
I want them on my, absorbing the email content, but I want to be in their earbuds too. If I can be in both
Mhm.
those places, people talk about marketing and multiple exposure points. That really accelerates that whole thing. And that's why I have so many people that do a discovery call with me. They're like, I've read every email. I've listened to like dozens of podcasts that you put out. Let's just get started. Let's work together. And those situations are curated and created by that two-pronged effect of the email funnel plus the podcast episodes. Is that making sense?
Mm. It is, yeah, definitely.
Okay. So I would give some consideration with this idea, and scorecards are really easy to put together. I've got a whole episode where I unpacked it. I'll make sure I send you that link directly with the Google sheet
Okay.
I'm putting together for you. But I think you can have this up and running so that the next time you're guesting on a show, you could roll that thing out there. And, I think people will really enjoy going through it and get good results too. So I would do, yeah, the way I rolled it out was I created my scorecard. I kind of eyeballed a goal number. I'm like, and I started using it myself. I was like, here's what I'm scoring, but I'm kind of a freak of nature. So I have to like throttle it back a little bit and be like, all right, the average person could probably shoot for this. Then I grabbed 20 podcasters that I knew. I go, hey, fill this out for a month. Let me know what you scored. Let me know how you feel about it. And then that helped me figure out the target zone a little bit. And then I was able to promote that and go, hey, 40 points per week. You're going to see the needle move with your show, guarantee it. And yeah, so that's kind of how I rolled it out. Make sense?
It does, yeah, and kind of a silly question, but the Excel formulas, is that because I'm not super familiar with Excel? I mean, I have it on my computer, but with the formulas, is that something that I could just Google as far as like making sure everything adds up properly and
100%. That's exactly what I did, Nick.
Yeah.
Like I'm the same way. I'm like, I mean, that was the first time I learned how to do formulas on a spreadsheet. I'm sure I learned it in high school or something like at some point.
Right.
I'm like, never going to need this. So I just immediately forgot it. And lo and behold, podcasting didn't exist when I was in high school. So that's,
Yeah, me
that's,
neither.
that's my excuse. I didn't know I was going to need this. So yeah, I Googled it and I just learned how to format the cells so everything added up correctly. And I was able to figure it out and it worked. And you can use a spreadsheet or a Google sheet, kind of same difference. And you can get things set up. And yeah, I think you could have a red hot lead magnet with an email funnel peeling off this thing and converting the listeners into clients, and you're growing your audience at the same time. So
Mhm.
I feel like, yeah, we've unpacked that. I think that's our episode, or that's our idea of the episode, I should say. I think that's going to be the thing with your title extension, adding those keywords in there. That's going to get more people in your world, and sponsor your own show with this lead magnet too. Like that's something that you can be like, hey, this episode is brought to you by my 28-day get your X out of your head scorecard challenge. Make sure you download the scorecard, link in the show notes, blah, blah, blah. And then get people into that email funnel and get them on, however you do your business with like a discovery call, and then figure out if you want to work together or whatever makes sense. So I think you could, have a lot of options. Cool.
Yeah, cool.
Oh, right. Well, I want to make sure that you can promote your show, your website, and all things that you need to make sure my audience is aware of. So why don't you go ahead and take the mic and do that, Nick?
Yeah, thank you, Adam. So, my podcast is the From Heartbreak to Wholeness podcast. My website, if your audience wants to learn more about the work that I do, they can go to cultivatewellnessnow.com.
Outstanding. All right, y'all, go and support Nick. Stay tuned for some crazy, awesome scorecard action coming from his world. I just feel it's going to be a winner. And if any of you want to come on the show and do a podcast audit just like Nick, head on over to my website, www.podcastingbusiness.school. Get signed up. It's free. Hop on my calendar and we can create some awesome podcast content together. And with that, Pod Pals, appreciate everybody listening in. Thanks to Nick for coming on live here with me. And for everybody else, I'm going to send you out into the world wishing you health, happiness, and many downloads. We'll see you next time.